What did Jeff tell you?
Oh, he didn't tell me anything. Ask Jeeves told me. I typed in con man and Albuquerque. And up you popped, big as day.
What is up, Better Call Saul fans? My name is Merge, and we have got to talk about Better Call Saul Season 6, Episode 12, titled WaterWorks, which is the last episode that was directed by Vince Gilligan, and boy, what an episode. And this might actually be the best episode in the series, but I'll reserve my opinion for when the finale is released. Anyways, in this video, I'll be breaking down and reviewing the episode and pointing out references and Easter eggs and maybe things you missed, and overall just giving my thoughts and predictions on how the series could end. And if you could leave a like on this video to support the channel, I'd really appreciate it. So this episode does continue with the theme of merging the Better Call Saul timeline and the Breaking Bad timeline by giving us an intro that shows Saul Goodman in his office in color, bouncing a ball against a wall, looking to be stalling because he does get a call from Francesca saying that people have been waiting for an hour and they can hear him bouncing the ball, and he just responds by saying that's the sound of thinking. And as he hangs up, he gets ready for his next client, and we see him open an envelope revealing a petition for the dissolution of marriage between him and Kim, aka divorce papers. And then Saul tells Francesca to send her in, and of course we know when he says that, we know he's talking about Kim, showing us in this episode how their relationship came to a bitter end. But for now, we get more of the solid blue flickering of the title sequence, and then we pick up in present day with Kim, who's sporting a different hairstyle and living a different lifestyle, and showing us a day in the life for her in Florida leading up to that call that Gene made in the previous episode. And it seems like she's living a pretty quiet life, and the thing that I noticed during this episode is with her, she's not really making decisions. Like for example, when her boyfriend brings up the difference between the Miracle Whip and mayonnaise and saying if it's a good substitution, which is not, by the way, and instead of answering the question, she just asked, well, what do you think? Basically turning the question on him. And she does the same thing when one of her coworkers asks her which ice cream flavor to go with.
What do you think? Should we give it a shot?
I don't know. What do you think? What do you think? Vanilla or strawberry? Ooh, they're both good.
It's subtle, but it says to me that Kim has her own routine and prefers not to want to have an impact on choices people make, even something as small as choosing between vanilla and strawberry ice cream, which we all know is vanilla every time. Don't at me. Then we finally get the other side of that conversation from the last episode, and we get a whole range of emotions from Kim during this call, because we see that she's nervous to answer the phone, and when she answers and hears Gene's voice, you can see the confusion on her face and even the tone in her voice as she talks, and she asks him just plainly, what do you even want? And he just said to catch up to her and let her know that he's still alive, letting us know, the audience, that it's been 6 years since they last spoke. And in almost a Saul Goodman bragging tone, he tells Kim that he's still out here getting away with it and he wants her to say something. But the only thing Kim could really say at this moment and keeps repeating is, you shouldn't be calling me. You shouldn't be calling me. Because she's at work. This is her place of employment and this is a wanted criminal calling her. So as much as she wants to blow up on him, she keeps a calm demeanor throughout the call, telling him that he should just turn himself in, and then he snaps back on her saying why doesn't she turn herself in because she's the one with the guilty conscience, saying that Mike, Gus, Lalo apparently is all in the ground and there's nothing stopping her from doing so, and being that he's on the run, he can only be hung once, so if she wants to do it, she might as well just do it. He then calms down and says that they're both too smart to just throw their lives away and he just wanted to talk, but Kim just responds by saying, I'm glad you're alive, and hangs up immediately. And again, hats off to Ray Seahorn because she does such a great job of showing us how she's feeling with just her face, and we know what's going through her mind. But me, I'm not really much of a mind reader because I did not expect her to be going back to Albuquerque. And it was refreshing to see how the courthouse looks in a post-Breaking Bad Gene timeline, from the ticket booth that Mike used to work at now being replaced with a digital ticket machine, and even the tables that her and Jimmy used to eat at now being just a past memory. And another reminder comes in the form of a female lawyer Kim sees while waiting for an elevator who's dressing her clients, a callback to when Kim used to do the same for her clients when she was a lawyer. We then cut over to Cheryl, the ex-wife of Howard, who buzzed Kim in and hands her an affidavit of the confession she made of what really happened to Howard, taking Gene's advice and confessing to the part that she played in his death. And Cheryl, she wants to know if Kim will be going to jail for what she did, and Kim, she doesn't know, and her being a lawyer, she breaks it down for Cheryl, saying that there's no evidence or witnesses other than her ex-husband Saul, then adds if he's even still alive. But Kim tries to reassure her that Howard's death was quick and he didn't suffer. And Cheryl points out that because of the lies that Kim and Jimmy made up about him in the picture that he painted, all Howard would be remembered for is a drug addict who killed himself, basically saying that his legacy will suffer even if he didn't. We cut over to Kim on the bus, and again we get another great performance from Ray Seahorn as we get a powerful scene of her sitting and looking to realize the impact of what she's done as she cracks and breaks down crying, and it's just so emotional in all the right reasons, showing us that she's officially let go of Jimmy/Saul, and it looks to bookend Kim's chapter in the series, and it also ties up the hanging thread of providing closure to Cheryl and at the same time confessing and accepting any fate that may come her way. We then pick up with Gene entering the house from the last episode, and we see the plan is going smoothly. He gets the pictures, Jeff pulls up, and right as he's about to exit, he turns around and goes up the stairs. And it was at this point where I was just like, Gene, dude, what are you doing? Because he's taking cigars, he's pouring drinks, he's stealing watches, when he himself made the rule to not take anything from any of the houses they go into, but yet he's doing it anyway, all while Jeff is just waiting outside. And as he's waiting, a cop car pulls up behind Jeff, and at the same time, the guy inside the house wakes up and he's sitting at the bottom of the steps. And at this moment, you see Gene is having a real you or me moment here, as you see him grab the urn full of his dead dog's remain, and it looks like he's gonna smash this guy's head in, and you even see the wind up Gene has, but then he sees that the guy passes out on the steps, unknowingly saving his life. We then cut over to the police officers behind Jeff, who are having some lunch and just complaining about the amount of fish in their fish tacos, and then they witness Jeff speed off and crash into a parked car. And when I was watching this scene, I was just as baffled as the cops, just like, oh my god. But it did give Gene the distraction he needed to leave the house, leaving Jeff alone with the deal with the cops. We then pick back up in Saul Goodman's office with Kim filling out her portion of the divorce papers. And during this scene, there's a certain sadness and tension between Kim and Saul, where you see Kim is still stuck in that moment with them back in the apartment during their breakup. It's like she's still dealing with those emotions. And opposite Saul, he's just talking about everything from his office to the sandpiper money. And he even asks Kim why Florida, and before she can even answer, he says it doesn't even matter, really showing us and Kim that he's never really given himself a chance to worry or even slow down and think about anything that he's done. Because if you think about where they are and what they're doing, it's basically their last conversation, and Saul is just so blasé about the whole thing, and you can just tell that Kim wants to say more, but ultimately she doesn't say anything, leaving the office and giving us a deep cut cameo with Emilio from Breaking Bad episode 1, and a deeper cut with the pre-Breaking Bad Jesse as he waits outside while Emilio gets his legal counsel, and he and Kim smoke a cigarette together while Jesse tries to make small talk with Kim as it rains. Then he says that he recognizes her from defending Combo in court for him stealing a baby Jesus statue back in the day. Then Jesse asks Kim for his opinion about Saul and asks if he's the real deal, because his friend Emilio is facing some time. Another callback to episode 1 or 2 of Breaking Bad.
You know, with your cousin gone away and all, it really broke me up about Emilio. And dude is like my brother.
And it was just good to see Jesse again, and according to my math, this might just be like a week or two before the first episode of Breaking Bad. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure someone will let me know in the comments. And I like how this scene was shot purposely to have his face distorted, because Aaron Paul's like 42 now, and he can't really play a 20-year-old anymore. And I love the outside shots of the office that we really didn't get before. Then Jesse asks if Saul is any good, and Kim responds while walking away, when she knew him he was good, confirming that Saul has indeed broke bad. We pick back up at the Gene timeline, and we see that Gene has made it home safe. He pours himself a drink and he just waits for Jeff's to call. And I like this call back to that hand motion he does, like he's trying to compel the phone to ring. And when it does, it's Jeff calling from jail, and Jeff is now calling Gene Dad. Another call back to episode 10, Nippy.
But you don't have to call me Dad. Yet.
He's telling him that the police think he's responsible for robbing the house, and Gene reassures Jeff that everything is okay because he wasn't caught with any of the stolen merchandise, so it's no big deal and he'll have him out by the morning. Gene then calls Marion to tell her about Jeff, and it was during this conversation that Marion figured out something that's not quite right with Gene. And there's a few things that point this out, mainly when Gene brings up bail and says that things are not like Albuquerque. And when you think about the ending of the episode Nippy, Gene says that he's never been to Albuquerque, and the look that she gives while she's on the phone shows us that the wheels are turning in her head. Then Gene ends the call by saying that he'll be there in the morning to help bail Jeff out. And when they hang up, she gets her laptop and she gets the phone cord to connect the phone cord to the laptop, just like how it was back in the day. And then she goes Google mode, or should I say Ask Jeeves mode. We then cut to the next day with Gene on his way to Marion's house, and he's just feeling good about himself, kind of reinvigorating that Saul Goodman persona, and he's singing along to some music, just really enjoying himself. And when he finally gets to Marion's house, he circles around to the back door because the front door is locked and she's not answering, and he sees her on the computer, and with the back door locked, he just walks in. And Marion has her headphones on, so she didn't hear him come in, so she gets startled when she sees him. She then closes her laptop slightly to talk to Gene, and Gene tells her to get dressed so they can go get Jeff. She then says that she's not feeling up to it and he should just go by himself. Gene then hears what Marion's listened to, and he opens the laptop to show that she's been looking at a Better Call Saul commercial reflected beautifully off his glasses. And you can just tell in that moment Gene's heart had dropped. He tries to deny it and say that it's not him, but she knows, and all it took for her to find this out was her typing in "conman" in Albuquerque, and his name came right up. And Gene during this scene is genuinely terrifying, and you're not exactly rooting for him anymore. And I know I'm not the only person who thought that Gene was gonna strangle this woman with the phone cord, because it's not like he wasn't tempted by violence earlier in this episode, so it would have made sense to pay that off, but I'm glad he didn't, because it would have just been a super dark turn for Gene. And when she grabs her life alert button, the look he gives her when he says "final warning, Marion," I could have sworn that it was gonna happen right then and there.
Final warning.
Stay down. Final warning.
He loosens his grip and lets her call the cops and say that there is a wanted criminal in her house and his name is Saul Goodman, ending the episode with him leaving the house. So in this episode, it was a roller coaster of a ride, giving us an episode that we wanted to see since Fun and Games, and before that, since the beginning of Better Call Saul, and that is, what happened to Kim? And the Kim that we got in this episode is exactly what I expected to see, and that's more of like a mirror to Jean's life, but where Jean couldn't seem to adjust, Kim is faithful in her routine, and it's no longer an act. And it's only until Jean calls her that she decides to confess and tells the truth and really just break the routine. But the next episode is the series finale, and just with how this episode ended lets me know that we are in for a wild ride. And with the teaser that we got showing a red car looking to be that same yellow car that he had in the beginning of the series, and we hear what sounds like Jean on the phone trying to say or remember the vacuum repair line for Ed to disappear. But my prediction is that Jean ultimately gets shot and arrested, and maybe he's paralyzed and now unable to run. He's forced to deal with the grief and the things that he's done throughout his life, and I think that would be just a fitting ending for Saul, being forced to deal with everything that he's done, something that Chuck saved him from in the past, but now he'll be forced to deal with for the rest of his life. But that's just me and my thoughts on the episode and predictions for the series finale. But I want to hear from you guys. What do you think of this episode, and what are your predictions for the finale? Whatever it is, comment down below and let me know, and I'll do my best to respond. Until then, my name is Merge. Later.